Hey guys, it's Lane with Tim's Nation. I'm here today getting ready to play DJ and his AdMech, and I brought my Death Guard, and I'm here to talk about one thing and one thing only: Poxwalkers. Actually, I'm going to talk about other things too. I'm taking the max number of Poxwalkers you can take, 120, but they're only 5 points apiece, so it's still only 600 points worth of the army. So we're going to talk about a few other things in addition to Poxwalkers, but that's the deal today: is that we're going to put all 120 of my Poxwalkers on the table and see what they do. My guess is not much. They're just going to shamble and fall apart, but that's appropriate, I guess. Anyways, I've had my Death Guard. My Death Guard is actually officially a plague army because it started for me during the Great Plague that started a couple years ago. Really, the way I acquired the army was I have spent a lot of time in the past on eBay to the point where buying and selling Warhammer was actually a part-time job for me. And I decided to try to see if I could get a Death Guard army for free. I started actually doing this during 8th edition when the Space Marine Codex 2.0 came out. When Space Marine Primaris first came out, they weren't very popular to play with because they didn't have really interesting rules. But when the Codex 2.0 for Space Marines came out, the Primaris got very interesting. There was some new strats, new things they could do. And so what I did was I bought several of the Dark Imperium box sets, the starter boxes for 8th edition, that had Death Guard and had Plague Marines in them. I'm sorry, Primaris Marines. And so I would buy one of these, find a deal for it on eBay or buy it from someone locally or something along those lines, sell all the Primaris Marines on eBay, and actually make more than what I spent on the box and still get to keep the Plague Marines, the Death Guard. So I did this 3 times. So that gave me a good start. I got about 1,000 points. So 60 Poxwalkers, 20 some Plague Marines, 3 of the Fetid Bloat Drones, the characters, all that sort of thing. And then from there, I continued to use my eBay skills to buy large lots of Death Guard, keep the models I wanted, sell out the individual units that I didn't need, and was able to, for the most part, accumulate about 6,000 points of Death Guard. It only cost me a couple $100 because I just spent the time going through and purchasing it. But I had acquired a bunch of Death Guard, and then the COVID lockdown hit, and my job was generous enough to say, we're going to have you working only half time. You work for a week and be off a week, and we're still going to pay you full time. So I had alternating weeks just sitting at home, and I decided to start painting this Death Guard army. And so they are my true plague company. They're my true contagion army. And I decided to use contrast colors when I painted them. So anything that's not metallic on these guys is all contrast. I just want to do it easy and quick, especially when I was painting literally hundreds of models. But take a look at them, see what you think. I'm going to go through my list today. It's not super competitive because it's just here for one reason. Actually, 2 reasons. One reason is to show off all the Poxwalkers, see what happens when I put 120 on the table. The other reason is I have a couple weird resin dreadnoughts. I've got some Forge World dreadnoughts that aren't, I don't think they're actually Forge World, but they were some third party that built Nurgle Death Guard dreadnoughts off of the Deredeo and the Leviathan. And I also have a Hellbrute here too that's an old resin kit as well. So they're interesting, unique. They're not ones that I personally converted. They're ones that I acquired on eBay, but if you Google around for them, you'll see that the other people have the same kits. So I think somebody did like a third-party cast of these as heavily grossed out Death Guard Forge World dreadnoughts, and you'll see what I mean when we get to the pictures. So enough of that. Let's actually get into the list and see what we're talking about. Here we go. All right, so my plague company for the Death Guard today is Harbingers. When it comes to Death Guard, their different plague companies don't give any army-wide bonuses. They just give access to a stratagem, a warlord trait, and a relic. For the Harbingers, it's for the Poxwalkers specifically. 1 CP is the stratagem, and that means that unit of Poxwalkers gets to re-roll all hits. Poxwalkers also have a strat where 6s to hit generate mortals, and a squad of 20 of them will get 2 attacks apiece. So if I get 20 of them into combat somewhere and use both strats, they'll get 40 attacks, 6s to hit, generate mortals, and I get a full reroll. So I'll be able to kick out some mortals. Of course, that does damage to the Poxwalkers as well. They can't get away unscathed. But so yeah, we're Harbingers today. 1 HQ, we got Typhus. Typhus has a couple psychic powers, does a couple things, but really the reason I'm taking him, he's the only character that really buffs the Poxwalkers. He gives all Poxwalkers +1 strength when they're in combat, when they're fighting, as long as they're within 6 inches of him. This is important because the Poxies are only strength 3 when they're attacking, when they're swinging. And as you know, the Poxwalkers don't have any guns, so this is their only real attack. So Typhus definitely buffs them up. He gives other core units reroll 1s to hit that are around him. So there will be some Plague Marines on the table too to go along with those. So when we get to the troop choices, we have 12 troop choices, guys. 12. The reason we have 12 is because the Poxwalkers have a rule where for every Poxwalker unit, you also have to have a unit of some kind of Marines, either Plague Marines or Blightlord Terminators or Deathshroud Terminators. I decided not to take any Terminators today, so for each 20-man Poxwalker squad, there is a 5-man squad of Plague Marines. So I've got 6 20-man squads of Poxwalkers and 6 5-man squads of Plague Marines. Now, as you know, Plague Marines, they get their war gear for free. I'm just going to be playing my guys WYSIWYG. I've got a bunch of models that came from the Dark Imperium box set. So there are a lot of plasma guns in here and some power fists. I've also purchased some of the Plague Marines from the standalone kit. So there are a couple Blight launchers, a few Plague Spitters, some flails, a couple axes, the Great Cleavers in here. We're just going to be playing WYSIWYG, so whatever's on the models was actually going to have in the game. You'll see there's going to be a variety of Plague Marines, but these guys are pretty durable. They're T5 Marines, and they reduce damage by 1, so they have the opportunity to stick around for a little while. In addition to that, like I said, a good variety of guns. At 95 points for a 5-man, they're pretty affordable for how many guns you can put on them and extra weapon upgrades that are all at no cost. So we'll see how they do today. I'm going to be relying on them to put out some damage because I know at least some shooting, some firepower. We know the Poxwalkers don't shoot, so I'm going to rely on the Plague Marines to do that. And also, as far as scoring, we're going to be trying to do spread the sickness. So both Poxwalkers and the Plague Marines can do that. The Poxwalkers themselves, they are, I don't know, they're just crazy little guys, just little creepy, decaying guys. We've got 120 of them today. They'll be strolling up the tail with a 5-inch move. They are only toughness 4 with no armor per se. They have a 7-up armor save, so I guess they get armor if they are in cover. They do have a 6-up feel no pain, which helps them stick around a little bit, mostly to 1 damage weapons though. T4, they do get, they're only strength 3 when they swing, but they do get 2 attacks apiece. And like I said, when they are when their units within 6 inches of Typhus, they will get +1 to their strength when they're fighting. Other than that, the Poxwalkers are not nearly as bad as Necron Warriors when it comes to coming back, but they do have 2 different ways that they can regenerate some Poxies from a unit that's not at full strength. First off, whenever they're in combat and they're fighting with infantry or basically anything besides vehicles or monsters, if they kill models in combat, they get to return, for each model they kill, they get to return 1 to their squad that was lost. So they can't ever go above their starting strength. But if I get into some of DJ's infantry and kill a few in combat, I can bring back some of my Poxwalkers. The other way you can bring back Poxwalkers is there's a stratagem that you can use in the command phase. And I believe you get to roll 7 dice, and every 3 up brings back a Poxwalker. Now, this is really powerful. It's similar to the way Necrons can reanimate and actually get movement out of that and move on to objectives and that sort of thing. The only drawback to this really is that you can only use it on each squad once per game. So once I use it on a squad to bring back some Poxwalkers, I won't be able to use it again. So those are our troops. Moving on to our elites. Well, just to get the fast attack out of the way, just for points, I just needed to bring 1 Myphitic Blighthauler. These guys are great. They move around. They're neg 1 to hit natively in combat. They've got a multi-melta and a missile launcher that can fire crack or frag missiles. Just a handy little thing to have. I usually like running more than just 1, but for points reasons, we just got the 1 today. Now we get to the elites. We've got 3 unusual dreadnoughts today. So first we've got the Hellbrute with twin heavy bolters and a claw. This is an old resin model. This is not something I converted up. So when you're checking out the picture, you can see it's an old school resin dreadnought, and I love it. He takes well to the contrast paint, so he's got all sorts of gross, gribbly details on him. I like taking him with Death Guard because Death Guard have a stratagem that gives the Hellbrute +1 to hit and +1 to wound and shooting. And so those heavy bolters can actually do some work when they're hitting on 2s and wounding a lot of T3 models on 2s as well. Now, to the big boys. We have two Forge World dreadnoughts. First, we've got the Deredeo Dreadnought. This has the Anvilus autocannon array, the Borealis air defense missiles, and twin heavy bolters on him. Again, this and the Leviathan, I believe, were third-party, essentially knockoffs. You can, if you just Google Nurgle Deredeo and Nurgle Leviathan dreadnoughts, you'll find pictures of these as well. I don't think they were officially GW models. I think someone just basically made a version of it and sold it somewhere, because I've looked around and couldn't find anything on any official Forge World sites about them. But they are super cool. They are super gross. Again, the contrast paint takes really well to all this texture and detail. You can see in the pictures, and hopefully get some good shots during the battle, that they're just revolting. They are gross, totally disgusting, and hopefully they'll put out some damage today. The Dreadnoughts aren't particularly interesting in Death Guard, because Death Guard's army-wide rule is you reduce damage by 1. The Dreadnoughts get that natively, so they don't really get any additional buffs. I don't think they're great competitively for that reason, but they're cool, and I'm bringing them today. And then the other big boy Dreadnought is the Leviathan Dreadnought. He has the Gravflux Bombard. He's got a Storm Cannon, and then he's got the twin Volkites on him. So he puts out a ton of shots. He's also got 2 of the Hellforge Hunter killer missiles. I had a couple extra points just to get me to 2,000 points. So he's got 2 Hunter killer missiles on him. And that's it. That is the army, guys. Let's jump on over to the battle report here. We're going to take a look and see how they do against the AdMech. Before we get to the battle report, I'll tell you what my secondaries are today. Not great options, so DJ did do me the courtesy of putting some characters into a list, so I'm going to take Assassinate. I'm also going to take No Prisoners, and we're going to do the Death Guard Spread the Sickness secondary. So Assassinate, I don't know if I'll be able to get to these characters. I don't have a fast army. I'm not going to be able to get in there, but if I do happen to just start swarming Poxwalkers onto them, I might be able to pick up some in combat. No Prisoners is going to give me a lot of targets for that. I do have some shooting available for my Plague Marines and the Dreadnoughts, so I may be able to chew through some of the infantry that way as well. And then Spread the Sickness. All I have to do is I can do an action with either Poxwalkers or Plague Marines. If the objective is in my deployment zone, it's 3 points. And if it's outside my deployment zone, it's 4 points. And Poxwalkers normally cannot do actions. They can't raise the banners or anything like that. But they are allowed to do this one. So I'll take that, because I should be able to cover at least half the objectives on the board with just this massive number of models. All right, guys, I'll see you over the battle report.